Okay. Okay, we're going live because this is live streamed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. We're about to start this panel, and this session is being live streamed, so we're ready to go. Well, welcome to the first panel post the plenary of conference AVPN 2022. This panel is about catalyzing philanthropic leadership through the Asia Gender Network. Now, the World Economic Forum reports that it will take 163 years to reach gender equality in East Asia. And actually, the pandemic has set that movement back for more than 2 billion women in Asia. This just has to change. And rising up to this challenge, the Asia Gender Network was formed, and they work towards a more gender equitable world by mobilizing capital to improve outcomes for women and girls in Asia. The network comprises of thought leaders and philanthropists and is committed to changing the future for Asian women and girls, not just individually in the work that they do, but also through collaboration. And I'm thrilled to have 6 lovely ladies from the Asia Gender Network representing the network here today. They are inspirational in their own right, doing amazing work in their own countries, but today they're coming together as founding members of the Asia Gender Network to tell you more about what we all want to do collectively in Asia. And leading the conversation with the members of the Asia Gender Network is somebody who is wonderful, kind, and has flown all the way from the US, Iris Mwanza. She is the Deputy Director, Women in Leadership at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Iris leads the foundation's strategy and investments to improve women's representation and influence in the field of health, law, and economics in priority geographies. And she has been a driving force for gender equality her whole career. Please welcome Iris and the members of the Asia Gender Network.
No? All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. This is a very big room, so let's try it again. Good morning. I love the energy. I came all the way from New York City, so definitely need the welcome, need a little bit of noise. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being gender equality champions. As Pat mentioned, my name is Iris Mwanza. I am an employee of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As you know, the Gates Foundation has been fighting for gender equality for over 20 years. And I'm just absolutely delighted to be here to represent the foundation and to partner with the Asia Gender Network. I'm personally very, very honored to be here and to share the stage with these wonderful, wonderful, inspirational women leaders. So I think everybody is in for a very, very big treat. You're going to hear their work, you're going to hear thought leadership, and you're going to hear what they are doing to close that awful, awful gender gap. Before we get started, we need to talk a little bit about the really challenging environment today, perhaps more challenging than ever before in history. We are facing war. And not just the war in Ukraine, war around the world. We've heard today a lot about climate change. There's flooding. In other parts of the world, there's drought, there's wildfire. In Africa, and from my name you can probably guess that I'm African, there's even locusts. And that's not all. We're talking diseases as well. none of us have been spared from the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's not just about COVID. This is on top of previous pandemics. This is on top of previous communicable and non-communicable diseases. So far too many lives have been lost. And always, 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 women and girls are the most vulnerable, and women and girls bear the brunt of these multiple crises. But today is not about doom and gloom, so don't be depressed, because we are here to talk about solutions. We have this really, really powerful panel. They are business leaders, they are thought leaders, they are all gender champions, and they have combined forces. Okay, so we have all this talent together moving towards finding solutions. So let me introduce you to this esteemed panel. They have incredible bios, I think a little bit flashed up earlier, and you can find their bios online. So I'm just going to, in the interest of time, introduce them by name only. So from the Philippines, Mercedes Lopez Vargas. Welcome, welcome. From India, Vidya Shah. Welcome, Vidya. From our beautiful, beautiful host country. Honestly, I almost threw my passport away in the ocean. I wanted to stay so badly. It might still happen. But we have Anne Sutanto. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome,
everyone.
Shinta. Welcome, Shinta Denwardoyo. How did I do? Okay? Denwardoyo. Okay, I'll work on my pronunciation. We have Svida Alispadjana.
Svida Alishabana. Thank
oh my
you.
Goodness. And I've been practicing. I was practicing all night. And
Thank you, thank you. Great to be here, and thank you everyone to be here.
And last but not least, we have Noni Nono.
Yes, thank you. I think you said that perfectly, Noni Purnomo. Thank you, and great to be here, and thank you for all of you.
Yes, please, a round of applause for our wonderful panel. Great. So to kick us off, you all met for the first time in person yesterday. Wow, that must have been really powerful. So I'm going to go down the line. Tell us just one thing, one big realization, one aha that came out of the discussion that you have. And I'm going to pass the mic to you, Mercedes.
Thanks, Iris. There were quite a few aha moments, but I think one thing that stands out is the fact that there was so much commonality among all of us in the group, whether it was positivity goals or the challenges that each one of us faces. There was so much commonality there, and I think that sort of drew a bond among all of us. Yes.
Yeah, I'd kind of really second Sadie there, because I think the way I summed it up was universal stories and common purpose. I think we all come from economies may be very different in size. We may have some cultural differences as well. But ultimately, I think our lived experiences are so similar. And we're also bound by this common purpose that the Asia Gender Network has sort of put together for us.
So even though we are diverse, like what she said, but yesterday gave me revelations that we can be a very strong impact for the world if we are united. So the collaborations should be there and need to be there for the sake of humanity. So this is not about men or women, this is about humanity and being human. And that's what AGN is all about, the gender equality.
I think for me it's very honorable and grateful to be here and part of the network. But the way I see it, like learning from each other, that's what's really, really impactful and being the catalyst of this gender equality at the end of the day.
It dawned on me that being together across Asia, we have commonalities as mentioned. It is creating a collaborative platform to think together, to create tools that can be used all across. So it is really a much needed initiative so that we can move forward.
Well, I got the hardest job because I'm the last, so I could just say I echo everyone. But what's most important, I think, is knowing that everyone have the same purpose, and there's so many ways to get there. And the fact that we're learning from each other, from our ups and downs, I think that's the most powerful thing. Thank you.
And cathartic.
Thank you so much. So I'm hearing just the power of partnership, the power of collaboration, so many universal experiences, and then also together being more than the sum of our individual parts. Does that sum it up pretty well?
Yeah.
Yes. Great, great. So I'm going to ask this question to Sveta. What does it mean to be a founding member of the Asia Gender Network? And why is this just so important to you?
Thank you, Iris. It is really, first of all, it is my honor to be here and to speak on this amazing forum. And secondly, it is my honor to be invited by Pat. Actually, Pat first invited to talk and to share about her idea, along with someone from Melinda Gates Foundation, Dan, a few years ago. When she sold the idea to create an Asian network for women's equality, and it became Asia Gender Network, immediately, spontaneously, I said, yes, it is much needed. We need to create this collaborative platform. As Asia represents 60% of the population, but in the GDP, we are 39% of the world. So we need to accelerate, and we have to rise. And women is actually a majority factor that if we can accelerate of the women and gender equality, and hence that's something that would be expedite our program, our equality. So, also that by this rising to these initiatives is we are going to contribute to many other SDG goals, not only about women, but Goal 8, promoting full and productive employment and decent work for all, Goal 1 on ending poverty, Goal 2 on food security, and Goal 3 on ensuring health, and Goal 10 on reducing inequalities. My background from running women entrepreneurship program that reaching out all over Indonesia, probably it was like reaching out to 30, 40,000 women all around Indonesia, that every feedback, every survey we did year after year, it came to 4 points: network, support, education, and only last, funding. So this, to have this creating a tool to advance women, it's something that would be very good. 10 years ago, in my search for the global support of accelerating empowerment, I found, I had my trip to Kaufman Institute and found Endeavor. And then we started the first Endeavor in the Far East. Fast forward, now we have over 70 Endeavor entrepreneurs, over 100 mentors, and really accelerated the business of tech, mostly in Indonesia, because Endeavor. Of course, going back, that Pat and Nina opening up, let's do Asia Gender Network. Yes, let's do this together across Asia for betterment and also for the greater good.
Well, you should be incredibly, incredibly proud of yourselves. I mean, it's quite shocking that it didn't exist before.
Yes.
But wonderful that we're here now, and lots of work to do. And I think you have a lot of support around you. So we're going to hear from everybody who's going to tell a little bit about their story, about why they're passionate about philanthropy, how they're driving change, and some of the causes that they're leading. And I'm going to ask everybody except you, Vidya. I'm going to come to you last because you have a global story to tell, and we're going to give you a little bit more time. So I'm going to start with you, Mercedes. Please share with the audience your story.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you, everyone. I represent the Lopez Group from the Philippines, and its major business investments are in clean energy generation and solutions, and then digital media content production and distribution, and then real estate development. But what I wanted to point out here is, although it's disparate, the different business segments, the corporate mission and the CSR mission are one and the same. So if I had to summarize the missions of both sides of the conglomerate, it would sound like this. We are in the service of the Filipino people towards a regenerative future. And so this, I think, makes our job, us at the CSR side of the business, much easier. It's smoother because there's no dichotomy between the corporate mission and the CSR mission. So let me just allow me to read a few notes because I'm a forgetful old lady. At Lopez, understanding the landscape locally and regionally for both private and public sector initiatives is critical. We approach our group-wide philanthropy strategically. Our philanthropic practice has evolved since our beginnings in the 1950s, and what began as charitable acts and very personal advocacies have become institutionalized largely through a dynamic corporate structure for purposes of sustainability, maximizing impact, and upholding our corporate values in all the Lopez operations and programs, including gender inclusivity across hiring and beneficiaries. The Lopez Group Foundation was founded, which I am part of, to coordinate and facilitate the 18 CSR divisions and 10 foundations. Some of the ladies are here today, dedicated to the Lopez advocacy programs. As we approach philanthropy, we like to look at the bigger picture. What then is the role of each of our advocacy areas in the broader pathway of national development? How can we at Lopez, as a collective, best leverage our resources, not solely monetarily, but through skills, facilities, networks, relationships, and the passion and the ability to ignite? The Lopez Group Foundation Advocacy Clusters is thought-led and operationally led primarily by women. So I'd like to, some of the women are here, Roberta, Marga, Jen. Is Jen here? Please stand up. And these are the thought women of Lopez Group Foundation. Now, philanthropic work is best done synergistically through the strength of networks, collaboration, and shared vision, both with external partners and within the group. At Lopez Group, we facilitate opportunities for our members to get to know each other, understand their needs, facilitate capability building, and provide mechanisms for collaboration. We've organized our members into working clusters for each of our seven advocacy areas, which are environment, education, arts and culture, humanitarian assistance, child's rights, health and wellness, and livelihood. Now, for the arts and culture cluster, our efforts are largely focused on the stewardship and preservation of Philippine cultural heritage, enabling public access to history, heritage, and cultural experiences. And we provide opportunities for artistic, literary, and scholarly production, and harnessing the arts for education. 6 members make up the arts and culture cluster. Sorry.
I'm going to speed you up.
Yes, I know, yeah. Which include a museum and library, film preservation, a Sikat Solar Foundation, the Lingkod Ka Pamilya, which is a humanitarian foundation, and the Ang Mission, an orchestra, a youth orchestra for underprivileged youth. And then we have the Center for Climate Change and Resiliency. All members.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah,
and then
so
we'll come
sorry.
back?
Yeah, okay.
Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to say
Yeah.
really pressing?
Well, no, I would just like to say that, lastly, another program that I'd like to share very briefly is my personal passion project. And it is called the Estilo Artefino, and it's a nonprofit founded with a vision to sustain Philippine artistry, craftsmanship, and heritage. Artefino brings together about 100 social enterprises and gives them that platform to be able to galvanize value for social development and philanthropy. And the outcome of that is elevation and development, product development. And we're bringing awareness, consciousness, and pride to Philippine artistry. So as I close, I'd just like to say that I strongly believe in the power of the arts to be a transformative tool towards social development and empowerment and quality of life. And these begin with a fierce passion, a strength of purpose, and a depth of commitment. It has always been a source of joy and fulfillment for me to be in this space where advocacy, business, and passion intersect and converge. That's it. Thank you. Sorry.
Not at all. Lots of passion. We love the passion. We love that you're doing all this incredible work. So I'm going to pass the mic now. Please go ahead.
To me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know, some of you knows that my business is actually in a garment, clothing manufacturing, export to the world, and we are a very labor-intensive process, made in Indonesia all. So why I choose education from start as the CSR? Because, you know, Indonesia is very diverse. We have about 270 million people, and whenever we want to expand, grow the company, we always have a problems on having a right, skillful workers to be there, to be productive, to be very competitive, and actually to support their economy, the economy. So I looked deep for this labor intensive, and I told the company that, look, we need to focus on educations, and scholarship is not just one, but also how they can be very impactful, not for themselves, but also for the family and the community. So within the pandemic, actually, we add health because it's very important for us, actually, the private sector in Indonesia, to support the government on vaccinations, right? And therefore, just to give you a few, our government, Indonesia, has managed our vaccinations, 96-97% vaccinations rate for the whole Indonesia. And that's why I call this Asia gender equality is very important, and why we have these collaborations, because we can share the diverse of Philippines, India, we have also Singapore, and also Myanmar, Cambodia, and the rest. We want to share what we learn from our country and spread, because it's everyone knows, everyone has their own CSR. But if we collaborate under Asia gender equality, we actually can share our learning experience, can push it out. And because of it, you know, together actually we are in the board of Endeavor, and we are in YPO, we have Do Good also in Indonesia. We actually learned each other with Philippines last time on vaccination and so on. So I think the power of the network is what makes us important here. And I keep saying to all the friends, we keep saying to everyone that if we can collaborate and we actually can do good together, the actions, what works, what does not work. And we actually can share all of this to the world. That's what makes it very impactful. Philanthropy is humanity. And if we can share the humanity, the peace and love of what we can learn from our culture, that's where we actually end the conflict. And a lot of people actually asked Indonesia during our trip, Indonesia Chamber of Commerce, because me, Noni, and as well as Swida is actually in Kadin. Tomorrow you will see our chairman as well speak in AVPN. Indonesia is the hot center because we are the host of G20 and B20, and everyone asked during our promotions to US, Canada, Europe, and also Singapore last week. So what would Indonesia do with Russia and Ukraine, and do we invite or not invite? But I think it's not about invitation, it's about sharing the love of the G20 to even Ukrainian and Russian victims, and it's also about gender equality, right? We share the corporate and also the country equality, even though we have different GDP per capita. So I think that's what needs to be learned. That's why education is so important for us. Actually, it's a legacy that everyone should have, not just for a country with an advance, but also developed as well as poor, because everyone needs to have the rights to have the good education. And therefore, we are all here to actually collaborate and make the action happen. And that's what I want to share about our CSR within the company, our CSR within myself, and how we are going to push it out as Indonesia, and willing to collaborate with all the world to see and share with everyone within the AGN community. And that's what makes works, the actions that is being driven by humanity.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. Education is so fundamental, and it's not just going to school, which I think all of us, many of us from developing countries, that was our pathway out of poverty, but also the education that we can share right now, and what you have mentioned and discussed, that you are sharing, you are learning. There's no need to reinvent the wheel every single time. Let's help each other, and that way we can advance. So,
just 30 seconds.
Sure.
End of last year, actually, I got some friends, maybe some of you know John Wood as well. We have a new board called UGO. It's actually for Asia women and girls' educations on scholarship. So I got called, and I actually said to my husband, I want to be in this board. And my husband said, why only women and girls? My husband is actually in the floor right now. He's among all of you. And he asked me, why is only women and girls? I said, it's not only about women and girls, but actually women supposed to have kids. And the kids is the man and women as well. So if we have the right educations for women and girls, we will have a very good family to begin with, right? People always ask me, are you so biased on women and because you are women? Not at all. We are a gender equality. We believe on the equality, on the rights of the same human. So it's not about women above men or women below men, but it's about how we give in. It's the yin and yang of situation. It's the equality itself.
Exactly right. We're talking about gender equality, and we really are talking about everybody. And I think the data supports that, right?
And all of us here have men in our lives. So without men, we are not even women.
We're talking about...
I always say that's equality itself.
We're talking about everybody. Yes. And I think the data supports that when you elevate women, you elevate the family, you elevate everybody. Everybody benefits. So... okay, thank you so much, Anne, for your passion. We're going to pass the mic over to Shinta. Please share your story.
Thank you, Iris. So a bit about myself. I've been in the tech industry for 25 years. I started my first company, bubu.com, in 1996. Along the way, I've done a lot of other tech-related businesses like e-commerce, mobile-related businesses, and I was in the venture capitalist space as well. But now I'm more like an angel investor, investing to tech startups and helping mentor young entrepreneurs so they can fly faster than me, because I've been doing this 25 years, seems too long. So I think during the 25 years of my tech journey, one thing that I've seen is that technology can actually enable women to improve their life, and also they can achieve gender equality through technology. But unfortunately, women in the tech sector is very underrepresented. And I think one of the reasons why that is the case is most of the time the young girls are not really interested in tech. Probably it's because there's not much role models in technology for women, and also probably lack of the peer supports. I think that's one of the reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I would love to actually move more women to be interested in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And I believe that technology can really play a big role in pushing and achieving the digital economy, especially like during the pandemic. As you can see, digital just moved like really, really fast. You know, suddenly everybody is adapting digital. And I think that's a good way where women can actually utilize and enable themselves to be more empowered to help the economy of their, their family, even for the country. That's how I see it. So I think one of the reasons, how can we actually move more women to be more interested in STEM. In our organization, we started this incubation program. It's called Super Girls in Tech. What we do is we actually choose 100 young, high-achieving women who are on their last year of universities. Why we do that is because we see like once they're done with their university, they have to think like, what do I do next? So we want them to like have an interest in technology. So we created this incubation program. What we do is we give them tools, networks, and also platform to help them start their own tech-enabled projects. So that's what we're doing. And we're giving them 4 pillars, which is under UN SDGs, which is one of them is education, attainment, and then we have health, and then career opportunity and financial inclusion. So they can choose within that 4 sectors which one they want to start their projects. And I believe this is quite successful because we had like 1,000 girls actually signed up, but we can only choose 100. And we did this last year, November 2021, and we have like some interesting project coming out from the incubation programs. And I think, with technology in the forefront of Indonesia economic growth, this way we can have like, in Indonesia we have small, medium enterprises and they're made of women. I think 60%? Yeah, 60% are women. So why not enable them with technology, and definitely it can push forward towards our digital economy.
Thank you so much. I mean, why not, right? And it just shows you, when you open the gateway, you have an excess of supply, demand, and there's not enough supply. So
true.
You need to do more. You need to find a way to do more. It's so important to get more girls involved with STEM, and it's not just an issue for Indonesia. This is really certainly a global challenge.
Yes, I think it's everyone, especially the programmers. We need more programmers that are women, because I had women programmers. They're like actually way better than the men.
Yes.
So we just need more women to be more interested in taking STEM.
Yes, and you're a wonderful role model for all these women.
Oh, thank you so much.
So passing the mic on, Sveta, please tell us your story very quickly.
I'm sorry?
I say, are you going to share your story?
Oh,
Noni, sorry. Noni, I apologize.
That's okay, thank you. Thank you, just to consider time. So I would say, if I may, that I represent a male-dominated industry because I come from a transportation company. In our company, we have about 36,000 people and less than 1,000 female. And I also represent a female from a female-dominated family, because in my generation, there's 7 of us and only 2 females. So the unique part of Bluebird is Bluebird was founded by a female, even though it's a transportation company. It was founded by a female in 1972. So the organization by itself already embedded the women equality as part of its value. So the job is actually easier for me, but it is still challenging in a way, because number one, what is women empowerment? To me personally, women empowerment is the power to choose, to give the power to choose for each woman. Because in the beginning, we were trying to introduce more women to be our taxi drivers, to work in our maintenance department, to work in our operation department that opens 24 hours a day. It is pretty challenging. And then we further expanded to engaging the wives of our drivers so that they too can contribute to the economy of the family. So women empowerment is about economic empowerment, because as we all know, women is about 50% of the population. And with the current situation, if we don't use all of the resources that we have, then it is actually a waste. But again, we cannot force women to come to the office if they choose not to. So one of the initiatives that Bluebird is doing is called Kartini Bluebird, which is giving the vocational training for the wives and the daughters of our drivers so that they can open businesses from home. And with the advancement of technology, as Sinta was mentioning, it helped them a lot, because now they can work from their home. They don't even have to leave home. So the advancement of technology really open up a lot more opportunities to the women itself. And within Bluebird Paduli program, we're also giving scholarships to the children of our drivers. I have to say we're very happy that when we started the scholarship in 1998, there were only less than 10% girls received the scholarships. Now we are giving to more than 36,000 scholarships, and half of them are girls. So I think it is very important to not just do one thing at a time. You know, if we can try to make it as a whole program, I think it would work so much better. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Absolutely agree that we have to be inclusive, and that definition can be different in different environments, different businesses, different countries, different cultures. But the bottom line is we want women to be empowered and bring women to the table. And because you and others have been participating in your company, I actually took a taxi from the airport using your company.
Did you take the electric taxi? Because there is an electric taxi now at the airport here in Bali.
Oh, I will take the electric taxi back. But yeah, so I think it's really, really wonderful. Lots and lots of themes we've heard today about empowerment, about collaboration, about the power that we all yield, can manifest with intentionality. So I would like to ask Vidya to talk a little bit more just about bringing all these different themes together and how it's working for you in terms of collaboration. We hear a lot about collaboration, but the fact of the matter is not that easy. There are some challenges. So maybe you could highlight some of the challenges, what you have been able to do to overcome these challenges, and how are we going to get to scale?
Thank you, Iris. And it was just a wonderful day yesterday. It's just 6 of us today, but we were more yesterday, and it was a wonderful day of sharing and getting to know each other. And I'm incredibly proud to be fellow journey people along with the rest of the group here. I just a little bit about myself. I'm also a co-founder of a largish financial services company group in India. We set up the foundation almost 15 years ago. And that was long before it was mandated, before CSR was mandated in India. I think we're also one of the few foundations that has intentionally worked on capacity building and helping small and medium-sized grassroots organizations really grow and scale. I think as a foundation, we have invested in understanding communities and understanding our partners. When it comes to gender, I think we were also one of the early movers in terms of looking at gender and learning about gender, because I think one of the things that happens and has emerged in the discussions yesterday is our own lived experiences kind of determines what we do in philanthropy. Almost all of us have spoken from a space of the personal. And that's really the beauty of being a philanthropist, being able to explore that side of you that is not determined by what we do in the business. In gender, I think what we learned very early on, and a lot of the challenges really come from there. Why do we always complain that there's just about 5% of overall budgets worldwide that go into gender? That's largely because we look at gender as one common space and do not realize that there are so many nuances and layers within that. And we get tied into the activist and the justice part of gender equality, which is extremely important. But as young, new philanthropy starts looking at gender, it's very important to see that more as a map rather than just one blank piece of paper that says gender on it. We've really looked at the whole spectrum of gender, and you can look at the economic side, livelihoods, looking at vocational education to enable that there's more labor force participation by women, women-led enterprises and the capital that needs to go there. But at the same time, we feel that there needs to be balance. And without looking at the social aspects and the cultural aspects of what it means to be women in these economies, as mothers, as caregivers, as labor force participants, as daughters, as wives, it starts becoming important to look at how the social and cultural aspects of gender actually impact your economic participation and your economic well-being. And to that end, it is really important to focus on leadership of women in communities. It's really important to look and confront issues of violence and the access to legal justice. And it's extremely important to look at what it means to be able to access, whether it's the social aspects or the economic aspects of participating in the economies that we are a part of. And I think that is what we've tried to do. And our whole experience in India has been very collaborative. We've been very fortunate to work with not only the Gates Foundation, but with the Ford Foundation and several other people who we've learned with along the way and who've also learned with us what it means to work in India. It's very different to work in the United States on issues of gender and very different to work in India, and to understand those subtleties and understand those differences. So these are mostly the challenges, but I think I'd like to segue into what the Asia Gender Network, along with Dalberg, who's also here, have tried to put together a framework, because all of us struggle with a framework of working in gender. And together, I think, yesterday at least, we spent a lot of time agreeing whether these principles work for us in terms of how we look at our own practice in gender. And like I said, it has to be as much intrinsic as it is extrinsic. We have to first look internally. So if I could get the Dalberg team to put up the slides, is that possible? Or not? If it's not possible, that's okay. I'm just going to start because, in the interests of time, I'm very conscious of that. The first slide actually mostly talks about how women are excluded. We all know this, we all get thrown, so many statistics get thrown at us. So many girls are out of school, so many women don't have access to the labor markets. We are always in the unpaid care space. But I don't want to really talk about these statistics, because look at our own, like I said, our own intrinsic, our own lived experiences. Talk to the women in your household, talk to the women who work with you, talk to the women in the communities that most of us as funders serve. Talk to your friends in the funder community if you're not funding gender, and they'll tell you the same thing. Our lived experiences are that women tend to get excluded. Some of them are reasons that are internal to us, for which we need to build our leadership. Some of it is because of cultural norms, and some of it is because of the way our legislation and our governments work. And therefore, we need to work more holistically. And the principles here are really talking about how should we be doing that. And we all know what gender will do, what working in gender will do. We know our GDP will grow up by, I don't know how many percentage points. We know that, other SDG goals around climate, around hunger, around quality education, all get impacted. We know that, but we have a theoretical understanding. And until we have an intrinsic understanding, we will only pay lip service to what we need to do in gender. With Dalberg, what AGN has done, and it's a really, the next slide really, is really to talk about what we should be, how do we embed a gender lens in everything we do? And the first one is to look at your own organization. You may be a business, you may be a foundation, you may be any sort of organization, but do you yourself adopt the practices of gender equality? Do you have the right leadership mix? Are your supply chains more gender equal? Are your cultural and HR practices such that they promote gender equality? Look within yourself, find an index for yourself. I think ESG is forcing it, but try and do it more meaningfully. Then if you want to fund gender, what should you be funding? And there is a host, like I said, there's a whole menu card that you can look at. You can look at girls' education. You can look at ways of promoting female labor force participations by working in some of the voluntary programs that my fellow panelists spoke about. You can look at financial inclusion that meaningfully targets women and girls. You can do a host of things. And then, of course, who do you fund? Do look at the organizations that you fund. Do look at who leads them, what is their leadership, sort of bandwidth like, how many senior women exist in those organizations, but also look at how decision-making happens. How much of the voices of communities, which is the last bit, how do you fund? How do you look at incorporating the voices of the people that you're looking to serve in the work that you do? And that is the how. Don't just measure whether so many women got covered or so many women passed, girls passed an examination. But look at how decision-making within communities changed because of the work you did. And therefore, to summarize, in a sense, what we're trying to do is across these dimensions, this is something that AGN believes in. This is something that we'd like a lot of people interested in gender to truly adopt, but it is up for discussion and questions, as I'm sure Iris will open this up to the audience, is to see, do some of these metrics actually make sense? We do believe that they make sense. We believe it's a journey. Some of us may not have 30% women on our boards, but can we start with 10%? Can we start with one woman on your board? So can you look at your own leadership? Can you look at your own boards? Can you look at how you choose your suppliers? Maybe you don't have 30% suppliers currently, but can you go back and look at the processes you use and things like that? I'd like Kiran, if he's here from Dalberg, to very quickly take us through this, very quickly. But the idea is to, if we have the ability to measure what we do, if we have the data and the evidence, we will make a step forward. And that was really the intention behind putting this together. Thanks, Kiran, if you could.
Thank you, and with Iris's permission as well.
Of course, of course.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kiran Sivaraja. I'm an associate partner with Dalberg, and it has been an honor to work together with Pat, with AVPN, and with all of you to start drafting the principles behind philanthropy from the lens of gender. And we wanted to sort of use this opportunity, and if I can get the slides back on the screen, please. We were really looking at philanthropic giving from a gender lens across the big four categories that Vidya very eloquently presented earlier. And the first, at the very basis, is really reflecting whether the organization themselves is very much gender aware. And I won't read out the slide, but you can see certain draft measures that we thought might reflect that level of gender awareness, because it must begin from the organization itself. And we then thought about gender lens philanthropic giving across several other dimensions. Number two, what is the funding for? And an example of a measure there is at least 30% of the portfolio funds programs that reach women, either directly through their programmatic efforts or indirectly. So you could, for example, be working on a specific topic unrelated to gender, but at least 30% of that portfolio is reaching girls and women. And number three was, who do you fund? And here was specifically in recognition that in order to sort of really close the gap when it comes to gender, you want to empower the women leading the effort. So are you sort of really looking at funding organizations where at least 50% of your portfolio is with organizations where there is more than 30% of representation, especially at the level of leadership, that consists of women. And finally, really thinking about the life cycle of grant giving. How do you fund? Are there specific gender-specific analyses, risk mitigation that you have in place, that you have developed and evaluated across your portfolio of programs? And really thinking about the gender disaggregation of data as well to really inform your decisions. So I wanted to sort of share this. We had a wonderful conversation with the AGN members yesterday. This is very much very early on in the journey. We have drafted these principles, and the whole idea of presenting this at the AGN, as well as today, was to really receive feedback from the AVPN members. We are very much aware that there is a big diversity in the membership at AVPN, both sectorally as well as geographically. So to that extent, wanted to present a couple of Menti polls, questions to all of you to really get feedback. And I'll move on to the Menti poll right now. And most of you should be aware of how to use Menti polls. It was a feature in in-person conferences, so hopefully everyone's aware of how to use it. You can go to menti.com, and the code is on the screen. So if you sort of key in menti.com on your browser webpage and key in 70199884, the first question should pop up if technology does not fail us. Can I get a show of hands if the question is popping up? Great. That's wonderful. Great, and so the first question, and the results should hopefully not pop up yet, just so that we're not being influenced by the answers. But the first question is really, to what extent does the organization that you are a part of, or the organization that you represent, already consider gender across its activities? So, if you want philanthropic giving, that's great, but across other sectors as well, regardless of what sector you represent today, to what extent are you already considering gender as part of your activities? And I should be able to see a tracker in the bottom right to get a sense as to the number of respondents. And if that doesn't pop up, I might just get a show of hands for people who have completed responding to the question. Okay, so about 40% of the room. We'll wait for another 5 seconds. All right, can we get the results up, please? There should be more than 0 responses. Or we could do this the old school way and have a show of hands.
Yeah.
I think let's go old school.
Old school? Yeah. So the question is, to what extent is your organization already considering gender? Oh, there you go. That's excellent. So we have a vast majority, so about 59 responses, I think, if my eyesight is not failing me. About more than 32, that's excellent. So about half of the room already is considering gender across its activities. And I'll very quickly go to the second question, right, which I think will provide us a bit more nuance. Yeah, so you saw the draft principles earlier, and I know that it was the first time that you are seeing it. So if you are in philanthropy, so this question is specifically for those of you who are in philanthropy, which of the 4 dimensions do you feel most confident about meeting? And we already have the answer. So there's about 30 responses. I'll just wait for a few more seconds to get a few more responses coming in. It's interesting that most organizations here already believe that they have good gender practices, and I would love to, hear some reflections perhaps later on as to why people believe that they already have good gender practices, and if there are sort of opportunities for others in the room to learn from these best practices. And it's interesting, the genesis of the principles, when we were drafting them together with AVPN, we did start off thinking about it from a lens of tiers. And if you think about it, the first category is in some ways perhaps the easiest to achieve, though it doesn't become as structured, I think, after that, right? Like it's not as easy to, depending on your program portfolio, depending on your country context, depending on the complexity of the issue, it's not as straightforward to then sort of achieve number 2, 3, or 4. And we'll just go to the last question, which is more open-ended. And this is really to get feedback from the AVPN members as to what themes might be missing. Again, in recognition of the diversity of the membership in AVPN, as well as the countries that we represent. What themes might be missing? It's exciting to see some positive feedback, some comments on really embedding the gender lens across the life cycle of grant giving, which I think is really important. I love that comment on making this initiative viral, so if we have any dancers or singers in the crowd, this might be the opportunity to shine, maybe from panelists themselves. And also a need to sort of really move beyond lip service to actions. And so I think we have a bit more time, Iris. One idea was to sort of get folks in the room to respond and maybe share some of these comments, but I'll leave the Q&A to you, and happy to also respond to any questions that come up on the principles.
Thank you so much. I think this is very much, even though it's still a work in progress, your feedback is sincerely appreciated, is going to be included, but already I think there's a lot to work with. I know that I'm going to take it home and think about how I can apply it to my work, and this is what I do day in and day out, and I found it extremely useful. So we're just going to open it up, I think, to questions or feedback if you want to articulate what you put in Menti, or if you are technologically challenged like myself and you prefer just to speak out loud, or you want to ask the panelists any questions. We didn't have a lot of time to talk about some of the work, the incredible work that they're doing. So we do have some minutes built into this session for your questions. So please don't be shy. Anybody put your hand up? I know it's always hard to ask the first question. Oh, okay, maybe not. Okay. I don't know, do we have a microphone down there? Okay, I'm going to risk, yeah, that one doesn't work. I'm going to risk my neck and come down. I've done the stairs effectively twice in heels, and I have not been wearing heels for 2 years, so, oh, okay. Okay. Oh, thank you. She's my savior.
Who put the hand up? There. Oh, right here first.
Thank you. My name is Andy. I'm from Mercy Corp Indonesia. I met our colleagues last night, actually. So, I wrote that basically we need to measure how we improve the power, to measure the power dynamic. In Mercy Corp Indonesia, I think we always have like a program like 100% of our participant is women. But we found that this is not enough. You need to educate their husband. We did financial literacy, we did the business literacy, we did also like a technology literacy, but this is not enough to change the behavior in the community. So we hope that from this conference actually I will learn how, if this APVN or others has a tools, how basically we can like a design to understand also to, let's say, to change this power dynamic in the community. This is actually is very important in Indonesia because we have seen also the culture challenge in some regions in Indonesia. Thank you.
Great question. Should we take one or two more questions and then I'll have the panelists answer your questions? Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Vijaya from India. Across the gender framework, the main question which I really had was, how is the singular behavior change or intended behavior change that we want to see as an outcome? Because I see that the framework has a lot of very, very relevant sort of principles in terms of whom do you fund, how do you fund, and at a policy level. But from an outcome behavior change perspective, what is that singular behavior change outcome that we want to see in the recipients of the program? That was my question. Thank you.
So, can I, Arish? Oh, there's one more? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name is Sharon. I lead a research organization in India. I work a lot on the ground up, and I work with funders top down. So I think what's really missing from this is your problems in gender are much more interconnected than your funders are. So what happens is that addressing the intersectionality of issues will take a long time. But then if you have individual people, and I think there's a talk about collaboration, but I think the gap you need to address is the gap of the last mile change agent up to this room, in a sense. And I struggle a lot with that in research. We do able to bring some entities together, but I do find that's a gap in this one. And there's many more, but I think that was the most one.
Maybe we'll pause there, Aris, and answer some of these questions first.
I would like to address what Papa has asked, because I want to share that most of my labor is actually women, because we are garment by nature. We are the side opposite attract with Noni there. So I have about 35,000 employees. At this moment, 65% are women, because we are part of Indonesia Business Coalitions on Women Empowerment. So previously 90% women, now we are 65%. Not because we don't love our women, but we want equal chance for our men too, right? So the question is, when women actually have overtime, right? The man has social issues as well, because women by far in Asia and in Indonesia is actually the moms, the one that cook and also take the children, teach the children, put the children to bed and what's not, right? So what happened is actually our HRM, our personnel, actually have a lot of men, the spouse, actually come to our meetings as well, give them an understanding what their wives doing. Because in the past, there's a lot of jealousy. They think, okay, I apologize to say this, but they think that the women has extramarital affair because of the overtime that they do. But we give So this is a social dialogue. I can say a social dialogue with the spouse that is not our employee, and to give them an understanding what they are doing and how they actually can benefit the extra income, you know, for the family, the economy. And of course, the success rate is not 100%. Some men still cannot understand. It takes time, yeah. But I think with a lot of educations on social dialogue with our men as well, this can be a bridge to make it happen. Before, it's a taboo for women to actually even do overtime. But overtime is something that we need for an economy to also empower. Sometimes some economy cannot handle only the minimum wage. They need to do overtime. In Indonesia, our normal hours before overtime is 40 hours a week, right? Beyond that, we have to pay overtime. And that's something that is needed, especially for our factories that are in, for example, Tangerang or Serang area, where they need that extra income for the economy to actually, their small family to have a decent employment, a decent livelihood. So I think that's it. That's the real action that we do. But of course, you are right. Education's on men on that part. But like I said before, if our women got educated, you know, they're the one who also part of the family that gives educations to any children that they have, right? Both men as well as women. And if they have a good educations from the family background, all the men and women equally can have also a good sense of logics. Why we have to do this together, both men and women. The gender equality should also start from the family itself. And if both the parents are actually educated, you know, it all trickles down. I think that's the reality. I just want to share my experience in the workforce. That's what we do actually. Because I feel, and okay, second, what I want to say to here, I also call my women workers, yeah. I said, you know, I've been married to my high school sweetheart, and you know, before I'm being very nice, mousy, and so on, introvert as well, right? And now people look at me, I'm tiger, right? So what happened when I'm home? So when I'm home, I want to be patted by my husband. I'm a cat at home, right? So I say to everyone that is women that is up there, let's use our logic that we need our men also to respect us, not because we are career women, but because we are also a wife and mom. I'm a wife of 26 years of marriage, and I hope my husband still loves me, but I love my husband equally as if, you know, during my high school. He's my high school sweetheart, right? So it all comes down to also ego, how we actually, the women actually can pack down our ego as well, even though we are very successful up there, right? So same with my workforce in women. I said, look, we might earn more than our men, but it doesn't give the rights for us not to respect our men as well. And I think that it is, right? It's not about we have a career up there or we work, but because how we actually can harmonize or synchronize our rhythm with our men when we come home, right? And I want to be cat, not tiger at home, you know?
So this really...
I mean, this is coming from me, the human side of me. Sorry, I'm not talking as AVPN or AGN, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just want to be very blunt that, you know, for men and women to be equal, we have to actually understand our egos too.
I think this is so important, makes a lot of sense. I think this is why some of the best intentioned efforts have not been successful, because a lot of gender equality is really, it's in the home. It's in the workplace, but it's also in the home. And so we have to address culture. We have to have gender champions who are male and female. We talk about male allyship. but we all need to participate in this issue. I wanted, Noni, since you also work in a very male-dominated environment, I thought maybe you could add a little of your perspective to that and to the second question, which was talking about, I think it was one behavioral change, but I think the reality is it's more, we can't boil it down to one behavioral change. I think there are quite a few, but maybe if you could highlight 2 or 3, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that the hardest thing to break in my industry is the stereotyping, right? It's about female, as a female, you won't be able to be a taxi driver. It's a harsh work, and I did it. I work as taxi driver once a year. So, you know, it's about showing it, you know, to encourage people to open eyes to both sides. It's about equality, to open eyes to both female and also male. And then what we need to encourage also within the organization is to respect all, not just respecting female or not just respecting male. We need to respect all. So I think one very distinctive behavior that we're trying to change is the mindset part, that we have to be seen equal. To make it worse, I'm an engineer myself, so you know. So I used to go to school, you know, I was 1 out of the 4 females in the whole faculty. So having an open mindset, I think it's what's very important. The male have to be communicated well so that they don't perceive female as their competitor or the ones who are going to try to take over or over-dominating. No, it is about equal opportunity. I think that's that. Thank you.
That's great. Mercedes, can I ask you about the Philippines? Is that a very similar experience, or is the culture slightly different?
I think it's very similar, Iris. And I just wanted to add to Noni. It's important, I think, to bring empathy into the space where you are able to, you know, to flesh out or thresh out differences.
Thank you. So the next question was, I guess, about maybe some of the, the opportunity areas for collaboration. So we've talked about collaboration. We are about collaboration. But I think the question is from the side or viewpoint of an implementer who is saying, y'all are talking about collaboration, but from where I sit, it's not working that well. It's not that easy to coordinate, and especially when you have multiple funders, multiple types of reports, multiple expectations, and it doesn't quite come together. Am I articulating your question well? Okay. So how, I think for the rest of the panelists, maybe that could be our last question, because it's quite a profound question. Maybe each of you could explain how we're going to get beyond this panel to making life easier for our implementing partners. So I'll start with you, Vidya.
Thanks. I think this is this is kind of a perennial question. Just as implementing organizations find processes that funders impose on them complicated, I think we should also remember that funders' own boards are complicated and they have a certain set of expectations. So I think it really means collaboration at several levels. One of the biggest challenges that funding organizations face, for example, is that when it's very top-down, boards and bosses really determine what and who you fund, and that starts making things complicated straight away, right there. One of the things we've tried to do, we have a portfolio of about 20 organizations that we work with very actively on gender. One of the things we've tried to do is actually bring them together. So bring your partners together and listen to them as a group. Also, when you bring them together as a group, they actually get more power to speak. You always know that when with a group of us, we speak a lot more than we would if we were individuals. And I think that is when the listening sort of kicks in. We've done a lot of work where we've got a bunch of funders who fund gender in a very intentional way in India, along with our portfolio organizations, and actually arranged or curated a conversation between both groups. Because as much as we need to listen to implementing partners, I do believe, it may not sound right, we need to have implementing partners also listen to funders. We also have our challenges. And I think it's in that conversation that sometimes good things happen. You realize you're asking for information that's stupid, that's redundant, that's not required. Similarly, they understand where you're coming from and what you need to show your board so that more funding goes out. And I think that is really, really important. The purpose of this, and the Dahlberg team is here, you must share your feedback on the principles with them. But the purpose of this was to get a start. Honestly, when Dahlberg approached me as part of AGN to talk about this, I said 10 years ago, we didn't have this. We didn't know how many women-led organizations we funded. We thought we did so much work in gender. We thought we had a portfolio of 45 organizations and all. When we actually went to measure, we didn't have 30% because we were not intentional, because we didn't know. We thought we were doing the right thing, but we didn't know. And the point is to start getting to know how you actually practice your philanthropy. And that's when changes in funders happen, when you introspect and have at least some sort of a dashboard to look at to see where you are. And that is the purpose of this. This is only the beginning. Many of us will be in various parts of the spectrum, but the idea is how do you progress?
I actually want to add on what you said about this. So yesterday when we have this details being run through us, agree with you as well that, look, this is not perfect path, right? But at least this is something, an initiative by AGN that, look, like carbon footprint, this is also gender equality footprint, where we are at. And if we can actually teach and actually escalate, make an impact for also not just our inside, our internal organizations, which I'm sure the big ones have, but our supplier space, which is perhaps micro as well as small businesses who doesn't even yet have this platform, then we as the anchor or as the big corporations can actually detail out and scale up the smaller organizations to understand about this gender equality footprint, you can call it. Yeah, because we all know about the climate change. There's Glasgow, there's Greece, in WEF, everyone talk about sustainability, carbon footprint. But this is actually a gender equality footprints that everyone can add on to the organizations and also to our supply chain. And therefore, this is something that in the path we would add on as well. What works, what doesn't work for certain cultures, certain country. But at least we start with something that are part of our journey together as AGN, the Asia Gender Network. And therefore, this is also part of how the fund, the investment fund actually can look at. If you want to invest on any organizations at all, you can look at this as part of your platform as well, and then add on what you think is best for your organizations. So this is a kind of a basic platform for everyone to see. But again, this is not perfect. This is a dynamic progress for everyone with collaboration actions. Thank you.
Absolutely right. This is the beginning. So we're going to just take a few last words from our two...
Iris,
yes.
There are two people here that just want to make a very quick comment. So I'll just ask them to comment about it. We may not have time to answer the questions, but let's just note the comments.
Okay. Are we? Oh, I thought they were giving us another 5 minutes, but...
I'm Oma. I'm from Access Health International, and I also am the head of the CII Indian Women Network for Telangana. So I definitely resonate very much with most of what has been said. But my quick comment is, I didn't see any capacity building, and I didn't see any workshops for men to be able to understand how they are going to help us in that journey. Because if they are given a choice, they'll choose another man. They won't make it a natural choice to come to a woman as a partner. And I speak from experience.
Thank you for that. I think definitely include that feedback.
Very good afternoon. My name is Sawata from CARE International Cambodia. And this is not a question, but this is a comment. Because I'm here to also call for further investment. A very quick note that there are 89 million US dollar lost due to sexual harassment at the workplace. This is a research by CARE International Cambodia in garment sector alone. 89 million US dollar. And 1 among 3 garment workers in Cambodia experience sexual harassment. So CARE Cambodia are working with socially marginalized women and girls and ethnic minority women and girls, and we are working to ensure that dignified works and social protection policy is accessible by our women and girls. And I hope to call you all more for further investment. And if you are interested, Sawata in black dress is here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I would like to give the last, I guess, comments, last few. I think we do have 1 or 2 more minutes. So love to hear from Shinta, and then Svita, if you will give us the final parting words. I think as a founder, it makes absolute sense that you will have the last word. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I think Anne and the others have said it really well. We're just here, we just started and we're learning. And maybe, because I'm from a tech background, maybe we can have a tech platform that can help this collaboration to work better, faster, and more effective. So we'll see.
Thank you. This is a beginning, an opening for a common platform for Asian initiatives in gender network. It's not about men, it's not about women, it's about equal opportunities for us to advance. And these are for all the greater good in Asia. And thank you for that initiatives. We're looking forward. And hopefully the tool that we have designed, assisted by Dahlberg, this is something only beginning. Yes, a lot of room to be improved, but once we have it, we fill it up and we review it and hope that we can moving forward. And next year, we can see the result and the advancement that we have created since today. Thank you.
Well, I think those are wise words to end with. I just want to say a few thank yous. Thank you, AVPN. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Asia Gender Network. Thanks to all of you for coming today, for listening, for sharing, and for engaging. We're not done yet. This is the beginning. You've heard that. Your feedback is important. So please keep it coming, and we will revisit next year. And I look forward to, clearly I'm not Asian, but I've decided that I am participating in this very, very actively, and I look forward to seeing all of you as well this time next year. So a big round of applause for the panel. Thank you so, so much.
And thank you, Iris, for steering us through this important conversation. Very, very grateful for you being here. Thank you so much. Lunch is going to be on level 2, exhibition gallery, but also at the Jakarta foyer and the Nusantara foyer as you leave the room. Lunch is served. These principles, we will take all the feedback, put it together, and they will be launched together with the G20 in November. We hope that many organizations will sign up to it, because it's really time that gender becomes much more of an intersectional versus something that a few people are discussing in a niche. Thank you very much for being here.